How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you here?
That's difficult to answer.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
the end? There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be out you.
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent $200.
retarded?
Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
Great
her.
Noticer sent $200.
Literally.
So
not
it's,
Ian.
it's not a because I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is
problem.
that what you call reporters?
Go
and live
under if
streaming?
you're going to do it.
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise, you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah, please.
But Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
What's up, guys? What's up? Happy Sunday. I know there's some protesting going on in Minneapolis, but you know what? I decided to have a life today. I decided to have a life and I left my house again, like the third fucking time this week. I've left my house 3 times in a single week. I've left my house. What is even going on? What is even happening right now? I have actually had to put on real pants and real shoes and leave my house 3 times this week. Wow, what a time to be alive. Anyway, so I actually left my house today. I went and did other stuff. Basically, I did, just kind of like walked around and did, whatever. But I left my house. And that's really what's important, which is why I wasn't doing protest streaming earlier. But I did come back and discover that tonight, starting in about 14 minutes, we have a spy stream. We have a rare Sunday spy stream. And because of the nature of what this spy stream is, I decided just to make it public because, listen, I've been watching the organizing calls of the Mayday Strong Coalition for well over a year now, and here's what I know about the Mayday Strong Coalition. One, they are not remotely smart enough to figure out how to get me the fuck off their calls. Two, they live stream most of their calls anyway, so I don't really think that they care that I'm spy streaming them. Three, it's just a really kind of low-level call that I think gives people a good introduction to what the far left is and how they organize. Like the Mayday Strong stuff, there's a lot of progressives in it. It's like basically a mixture of like progressives, not that one, that one, there we go. It's basically a mix of like progressives and like DSA types. And so it's a very kind of low-level leftist organizing call. You will occasionally hear some far left stuff. The reason we are interested in the Mayday Strong Coalition is, of course, one of the primary things that they want to do is have a mass general strike. In this case, they're talking about May 1st, 2026, although they are trying to organize a general strike just ongoing and perpetually. So it is an important thing because I really do believe that, and the left believes this too, by the way, that a mass general strike will lead to the spark that starts the revolution to overthrow capitalism. And so the mass general strike stuff is one of the most important things that the left is doing that literally no one on the internet except for me and Harrison Smith. Me and Harrison are like literally the only two people on the internet who will even acknowledge the general strike stuff on the left. But I really do believe it's one of the most important things that we can cover on this channel because this is the thing that's going to fuck all of us. And I thought it wasn't going to come until Mayday 2028, which is over 2 years from now. But listen, with the amount of momentum the left has, it would not surprise me if they did pull off some big mass general strike of some sort starting on May 1st. 2026. So I guess we'll see what happens. Happy Black History Month. Yeah. Happy Black History Month. Yep. Nice update to the profile. W's in the chat for Wolf, 5 gifted channel memberships. W's in the chat for Loki with a gifted channel membership. Really appreciate you guys. Most of the time, guys, spy stream are supporter only. However, I've kind of made the decision that for low-level calls like this that really are, you can barely even call this an infiltration. Like, it's incredibly easy to record these calls. They stream them on the internet anyway. It's not like a high-level thing. More and more people are finding out about these calls, and so more and more people are just streaming them publicly. I've kind of decided we're more low-level spy streams. I'm probably going to make them public here on forward. That doesn't mean there aren't going to be supporter-exclusive spy streams, because quite frankly, I'm going to save the really juicy, good organizing calls that most people will never hear about for behind closed doors. We're still going to do our supporter only stuff. But I do think that, listen, there's a lot more people watching my work than have ever watched my work before. Welcome if you are new. I really appreciate you being here. And I really do think that making spy streams like this public are kind of a good way to introduce new people to the channel about far left organizing so that they can hear directly from the left themselves what they're doing. That's what we're doing here, guys. The left is having an organizing call in about 10 minutes. It's going to start then. We are going to sign into their Zoom call and watch the whole thing live so that you hear directly from the left what they are doing. There's no guesswork in it. You get to hear directly from them what's going on. There has been more than one occasion in the past where things that are happening on Spy Stream do go viral on the internet, and you get to see that happen in real time. You literally get to see the news happen right in front of you. There have been times where we've gotten people fired from things they've said on Spy Stream. There have been times when we've gotten leftists to cancel entire meetings just because they know we're spy streaming them. There have been times when the left thinks they're infiltrating me and they go and blab about the Spy Stream, and then I just make more money, which works out really well for me when they do that. So Spy Stream, I really do think, is one of the most important things we can do. There are going to be many supporter exclusive Spy Streams for supporters on my channel, my Substack, my locals, Rumble, all that stuff. However, I have decided that occasionally when we have lower level calls like this, I'm just going to make them public because, quite frankly, they're streaming them on YouTube anyway. So why not? Why not? They want to stream it. We'll give them a bigger audience, man. I have no problem with it. Prince, thanks for the $5. Such a gift to have Karlyn stream on a Sunday. I think my best friend is being washed into being a socialist. We are losing. Yeah, we're definitely losing, guys. We're definitely losing. But guess what? I want to mention something else before we get started. It is Sunday. Normally, I don't stream on Sunday, but what we do on Sunday is we have movie night in my supporter Discord coming up at 8 p.m. tonight, which will be right after this spy stream ends. The spy stream is supposed to end at 7:30. Guess what you get to do at 8 p.m.? You get to come to movie night in my community if you are a member of the supporter Discord. Now, if you're not yet a member of the supporter Discord, you can become a member. I will be posting the Discord link out to supporters on my Substack and supporters on my YouTube channel membership literally during this stream. Okay, so I will be posting out the Discord link for people to come and join the Discord in this stream. Rumble members, if you are a member on Rumble, what I need you to do is DM me on Twitter, or you can DM me on Substack and tell me what your screen name is on Rumble, and I will send you the link there. I apologize. There's just not a good way to post this out to Rumble members. I wish Rumble didn't suck, but that's just the way it goes. So if you are a Rumble member, if you want to get access to my supporter Discord and you're not a supporter on another platform, please DM me either on Twitter or on Substack. Either way, and if you don't have one of those accounts, just make one, bro. It's not really that difficult. And ask me for the link and to tell me your Rumble username so that I can confirm that you are actually a member before I give you the link. Listen, there's nothing really in my supporter Discord. Just so Stacy, the leftist, knows, if Stacy wants to go join my supporter Discord, there's really nothing in there, to be honest, other than movie night. Maybe we've chit-chatted here and there about some other things, but like movie nights are the big things we do in the supporter Discord. We do them on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. and on Monday nights at 9 p.m. And tonight we will be watching City of Angels, which is a Jennifer pick. I wouldn't pick that movie, but Jennifer did, and she hosts movie nights, so that's the way it goes. We're going to be watching City of Angels at 8 p.m. in the supporter Discord. And so come and join us for movie night tonight if you're a supporter or a channel member or all that stuff. And you can come and hang out and watch a movie with us, and it'll be rad. And if anything, of course, happens with protesting, listen, I know that BG is on the scene. They're at some sort of church having a rally. Someone said they took over a church. No, a lot of churches are already infiltrated by the far left, so it looks to me like they're just using a church to host an event. That's an awful lot of leftists right there, getting excited about being in a church for once in their freaking lives. Of course, it's a woke church, so that's what it is. There's also something going on outside the federal building. The Status Quo News is live streaming that. They're having some sort of press conference or protest outside the federal building. That looks kind of boring. IRT is, of course, driving around. So you know what? Whatever. There was protest stuff going on today. I'm not actually disappointed I didn't cover it. Maybe we'll go back and watch protest stuff. If there's anything that kicks off tonight, of course, I will come back on the live stream and watch it with you guys because that's just what I do. But I'm thinking right now maybe we'll just take the night off and have movie night unless something big happens, and that's gonna be the way it goes. Let me get this here Zoom link up. Let me get the Zoom link up. Join video call. Okay. I will let you guys know when they let us into the call. As a reminder, one of the best ways you can support my work is by heading over to my Substack. That is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up for a membership, $8 a month, $80 a year. I am 100% funded by you guys. I cannot spend all my time streaming and bringing you inside leftist meetings and trainings and stuff like that without you guys financially supporting my work, because if you guys don't, no one will, and that's just the way it goes. I don't take any political money. That's why my only job is to show up and to tell you guys the truth, show you the receipts directly. Membership on my Substack is my preferred way for you to support my work. But of course, if you want to send in super chats or channel memberships or subscribe on Twitter or whatever is best for you is fine with me. Sometimes people ask, like, Karlyn, which do you prefer? I prefer Substack, but listen, if you prefer sending super chats on YouTube, send super chats on YouTube. Beggars can't be choosers, man. Like, whatever you guys want to do is fine with me. I just appreciate it when people do support my work because you allow me to make my work free for everyone, and I really do appreciate it. Make sure if you didn't see my interview with Harrison Smith that I did this past week on InfoWars, make sure you check that out. I may be back on this week. He made mention that he wants to maybe bring me back on this week, and I hope we get a chance to do that. He told me I was never allowed to wear the Illuminati necklace ever again, and I said, Harrison, if your audience don't know the difference between a troll and, you know, someone who's seriously in the Illuminati, then maybe that's just a failure on the part of InfoWars. I'm just saying, like if you think I'm in the Illuminati, like I don't really even know what to tell you. Can I wear it today? I do actually have it. I think I have it sitting on my desk somewhere, so I could actually wear it today if I wanted to wear the Orwell-eyed necklace today. But maybe I won't. Maybe I won't. It's a Sunday. It's a casual day. We don't need to wear costume jewelry on a Sunday, all right? Guys, please make sure you mount the like button for me if you would be so kind, if you are just joining. And we're just waiting to get into our Zoom call. And while we were... who is new to Spy Stream? Who is new to Spy Stream? One in the chat if this is your first Spy Stream. Two in the chat if you've done this with us before. For Spy Stream, there's a couple things you guys should need to know before we get started. Number one, I will not talk over the call because this is my recording of the call, so I try not to disrupt the recording. I do sometimes chat in and display my comments on the screen if I do have them. You can also, of course, see them in the chat on YouTube. If you're on Rumble, you're in the chat on Rumble. It's the way it goes. But that's kind of how I communicate. I do not talk over the stream. We cannot pause this. This is a live training. This is a live meeting. I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know what they're going to do. It might be the most boring thing we ever watch in our lives because that is what happens when you do journalism. You sit through a lot of boring shit. We might hit on some golden nuggets that are amazing and that will go massively viral on the internet. We just don't know. W's in the chat for iBrew, 5 channel memberships. Really do appreciate that, bro. That's awesome. Thanks for supporting the channel. So we watch the training from start to finish. We don't disrupt them. We listen to what they have to say. We listen to what their plans are. If you have questions in the chat about what they mean by any of the language, please do let us know. We will try our very best to answer that, provide additional context. But again, I will not be speaking over the training. I also cannot fix any technical difficulties that they have. I also can't fix any technical difficulties that you have. This is a live training, folks. You got to be flexible. You got to be nimble. We don't know exactly what they're going to say or do or what's going to happen or any of those things. So I just got to roll with it when we're doing Spy Stream. Welcome to all Spy Stream noobs. I hope we get a good one for you tonight. Listen, the Spy Stream we're watching tonight, it's a little bit more of a progressive organizing stream. I wouldn't say they're revolutionary socialists. They're going to be like DSA types that believe in socialism eventually, but they also believe in elections and stuff like that. So we're really looking at a mix today of progressives and DSA types. We will probably see people from the teachers union involved because Mayday Strong is a teachers union coalition. So that will probably be part of it. We are still waiting for them to let us into the call. Chevelle, thanks for the super chat. Still learning. I understand there are many different groups that work here, but is there one name? No, there is no end all be all leader. No. Is there one name? Is there an end all be all leader with what is going on with multiple leaders? No. You are thinking like a conservative. The left is non-hierarchical and decentralized. There is no one leader. There is no singular leader. They are all cogs in a machine. The leaders on the left are the academics, the authors, and the activists, the people who are publishing, the people who are teaching, the people who are organizing. Those are the leaders, and there's not just one of them. There are thousands and thousands of leaders. Some of them are more high profile than others. However, if a high profile leader says too many wrong things that gets the movement in trouble, guess what they do? They pluck them out, they throw them away, they replace them with someone else. This is why you never hear from Robin DiAngelo anymore. This is why you don't hear from Ibram X. Kendi anymore, because they were leaders on the left. They were authors and academics and activists, to be quite frank. But Robin DiAngelo said way too many problematic things for the left, and she got a lot, and it caused a lot of problems. So what did? They plucked Robin DiAngelo out. They threw her away. They replaced her with someone else. So there is no one leader on the left. Anyone who tells you there is one leader on the left is lying to you. Anyone who tells you that there is one group leading the left is lying to you. There are thousands of decentralized cells all over the country. Sometimes they work together. Sometimes they don't. There are cells that have more people in it than others, but that doesn't mean they're the leader. It just means they have more people in it than others. So thank you for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. We are still waiting to get let into the call, guys. Should be up every second. Just so you guys know, when we get into spy stream, I cannot acknowledge your super chats during the spy stream, but I will acknowledge them after the spy stream. And of course, everyone do double W's in the chat when people gift channel memberships. I just want you to know that I can't acknowledge them during the spy stream because that would disrupt the spy stream. But I do appreciate, of course, all super chats. Can you please explain the devastating impact of the mass general strike? Complete shutdown of the economy. That's the goal. Complete shutdown of the economy. That's it. Thank you so much. You've made this madness so much easier for me to understand. I really do appreciate that. I try my best to do that. Thank you. Thank you. We're still waiting to be let into the call, guys. I don't know what Trump's statement today was. I've been out of the house all day, so I haven't been paying attention. I actually had a life today that did not involve socialist activism. Sometimes mods do answer my call, but right now, or the mods are totally allowed to answer questions in the chat. And people should listen to what the mods say, because if someone's a mod on this chat, they know their shit and they've been around a long time. And so mods can answer questions. But I like to answer questions too. It's part of why I do this. I love answering questions. And when people are asking good questions, I like answering them. I'm a teacher, guys. Like I genuinely, I love it when people are curious and want to learn and want to ask questions, you know?
Recording in progress.
Welcome, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. We were getting some good vibes with that music. It's so good to see you, Tamika. We are so happy you're all here. My name is Nady Dominguez. I'm the proud executive director of Organized Power Numbers, and I'm going to pass it over to my lovely MC, Tamika Middleton.
Thank you so much, Nady. My name is Tamika Middleton. I am the Chief Political and Strategy Officer here at Women's March, and so grateful to be here. I'm looking at the chat. Thank y'all for introducing yourselves. See people from all of the regions, even some folks from Hawaii. So it's really exciting to have all of you here. So grateful to be here. I'm looking at the chat. Thank y'all for introducing yourselves. See people from all of the regions.
Oh, there we go. Some technical.
Now I'm self-conscious because I can hear myself.
We got it.
But passing, yeah, thank you all so much for joining.
Yes, thank you all. And in order to make this a bit more accessible, we do have simultaneous interpretation into Spanish. So this is also a reminder for all speakers to, be clear and take your time and take it slow. But I'm going to pass it over to our lovely interpreters that are helping us make this happen today to give us all those instructions.
Muy buenas tardes, buenas noches, todo como se encuentren. Mi nombre es Erika y estoy con mi compañera Vanessa. Vamos a estar interpretando simultáneamente del inglés al español. Ya está activada la interpretación. Ya hay un globo terráqueo en la parte de abajo. Pueden hacer clic y escoger español si están conectándose desde su computadora. Si están utilizando su teléfono inteligente, pueden mirar 3 puntitos donde dice más o more y luego buscan interpretación de idiomas. Luego aparece inglés-español, escojan español y done o finalizado. Voy a decirlo rapidito también en inglés. Hello everyone, my name is Erika Perez and I'm also partnering with Vanessa. We will be providing simultaneous interpretation from English to Spanish. And I just want to acknowledge, trying to have this more accessible and inclusive language justice. I want to remind folks to speak at a regular pace, please. And I just said that if they want to listen to Spanish, just tap the little globe at the bottom and choose Spanish for those of you who are bilingual, if you want to do that. And if you're joining from your tablet or your smartphone, tap the 3 dots there, find language interpretation. With that, I'll pass it back to you. Thank
you. Okay. Tamika, look, there's like, how many people? Over 2,000,
Yes.
2,700 people here.
Yes, I'm so excited about this. And I just want to sort of take a moment to really ground us in what we're up to. We have been paying attention and seeing all of the things that have been happening across the country over the past several weeks. I'm sorry, the Southerner in me wants to go fast, so I'm going to slow myself down. But we're so excited to see how hundreds of thousands of us have been in the streets over the past several weeks. We've seen you all show up in walkouts. We've seen you all calling your Congress people. We've seen you all walking out of work, protesting. We've seen young people. We've seen retirees. We've seen workers. We've seen people of all stripes really showing up in this time. And it is the momentum that we need to build, to scale, and build the kind of power that is necessary to transform what we are seeing happening right now. So first and foremost, I just want you all to take a moment and shout out yourselves. Take a moment and congratulate yourselves, because we see you, we see the work that is happening. And of course, as organizations and as organizers, we do what is necessary. We put the calls out, and every single time we're so excited to see you all answer every single call, be it a Target boycott, be it a Home Depot, be it Call Hilton, be it Call Enterprise, whatever it is, you all are showing up and showing out in tremendous ways.
Yeah, and I know that also, as we all are in motion, there's a lot of questions, right? For many of us, this may be even the first time that we even start talking to our family members or our neighbors about striking. And we're not even union members. The majority of the workforce in this country isn't in the union. And many of us don't really have a relationship to a union or to understand, like, what does this actually mean for me? Like, why are we using this word of doing a national strike? And that is why we decided to have this call, and why we're going to have many calls like this one probably. It's because we are seeing this word being used everywhere, and it's bringing a lot of power, and it's bringing a lot of us together. One little, quick note from the internet. There was a huge hype of like millions of people looking on Google what the word strike means. So that should tell us something, that people are looking at like, what does this actually mean? So we just wanted to give you're going to hear from amazing people throughout this evening, and they're going to give you tidbits about what this looks like from their perspective, what lessons and what can we take away from what we have been witnessing coming out of Minnesota and our folks in Minneapolis. But just little quick things to know. So folks talk about a strike, and there's a difference between economic strike and a social strike. A lot of the times where people talk about an economic strike is really connected to specific groups of workers that are taking on a position and striking a specific company or specific industry to improve their wages, their working conditions. And it's a sustained action to get there. And so that's one way people define economic strikes. The other one is what we're seeing in our country, in our own backyards, is a social strike. Is when lots of people are in motion demanding one single thing, and a lot of the time is really concentrated, and most of the time actually, around what a whole system needs to change to actually address the things that we're all feeling. And that's really what we're watching happen right now, is really all of us, hundreds of thousands of us, taking to the streets, calling it a strike, but as a social strike, saying we cannot be having these attacks happening in our cities while most of us can pay groceries. And so I think one thing, just to ground ourselves in tonight's call, is that we see that. We see how hundreds and thousands of people who are and obviously have already been saying this is a national strike. Many of you probably were on the streets yesterday, right? Using that slogan. We see it growing. And we see more and more people getting there. And we know that in order to have the impact that we want to have collectively, we need to get to millions to demand this government stop attacking us and our communities and actually start, doing something about the affordability crisis that we're all facing. And that's going to take organizing. And that's what we're here to talk about. So just wanted to give a little quick, why are we even here? Why is there almost 3,000 people on a Sunday evening here talking about strikes? We see you are doing it. How do we get to really the vision we have is why we're here. So it is really my great honor and pleasure to introduce now the president of SEIU Local 26 from Minnesota, Greg Namaker, to talk about really what's been happening there and what we can learn from them.
Hey, sisters and brothers around the country, so exciting to be in this dialogue with 3,000 folks on here, and many of the folks on the chat clearly from Minneapolis. So I'm going to give you just one perspective of the many folks that have just sacrificed so much in the last weeks and obviously months and years in the Twin Cities to get us to this moment. So my name is Greg Namaker. I am president of SEIU Local 26. Just at first, a few statistics about what happened on January 23rd, which was what we called a day of truth and freedom. It actually came originally from community organizations and church-based organizations, hence that overall framing, a pause, an economic pause. And the subhead for that day was no work, no shopping, and no school. And so out of that, what was accomplished, we had 75,000 to 100,000 folks in the street that afternoon, negative 20 degree temperatures. Actually, the day started out negative 50 that morning. Many of us, including myself, were freaking out, worrying if, maybe 200, 300, 400 people were going to be tough enough to show up. 75 to 100,000 marched that day at 2:00. In the morning of that day, 100 clergy and 1,000 people went out to the airport. 100 clergy were arrested there. So there was actions all over the city that day, not just the big march. We filled up the Timberwolves basketball arena with speeches just to try and keep people warm. It was a bit of a logistical cluster. Talk offline if you want to take over a major sports venue with less than 12 hours notice. We have some lessons, but just amazing that we were at a level of social movement that could do that. Literally no tickets were even available more than 12 hours before the event happened, and we filled it. So 1,000 businesses closed that day that reported to us. We believe there's far more. At Local 26 alone of our membership, primarily janitors, security officers, airport passenger service workers, over 1,000 members confirmed to us that they did not go into work that day. And again, we are mid-contract for all those workers. We do not have a single contract expiration right now. And students went on strike. The mutual aid system now that has been built has over 80,000 people that are on active signal groups right now in just just Minneapolis and immediately close by areas. That is, depending on your measure, a very high percentage of the overall population of the city. 30,000 folks have been trained as legal observers. Over 3,000 people are on school shifts each week to do the mutual aid. Again, just at Local 26, we have over 80 members that are being taken to and from work every day by volunteers. So it's just breathtaking, the amount of folks, and that is just from Local 26's perspective. All the other folks on this call from Minnesota, I'm sure, could talk about the incredible way that just as a community, folks have stepped up, using particularly the 23rd as a moment to consolidate that power. So, there's a 1,000 lessons, but I think 3 that I would just raise in this venue is, number 1, as a union, the entire structure of the U.S. legal labor infrastructure is built on making non-economic strikes virtually impossible, right? And so, labor peace clauses in the public sector, all sorts of laws. Now, we all know who know labor history that, American workers have struck, and let alone workers around the world, have struck when it is technically not covered by the law in thousands of different contexts. Those have been most of the greatest breakthroughs that our labor movement has achieved, have often been strikes that are not legally sanctioned or protected. But the simple message I would just bring, especially to the other union leaders and union members on this call, is that this is possible. We just have to start building the muscles for it now, but it is absolutely possible in your town to have a majority of your coworkers in a union context not go to work on a day when there is this kind of social movement, a social strike, a day without work, without school, without shopping. So that is number 1. It is us that are saying to ourselves that we can't do this. And if we stop saying that and start actively organizing in ways that are still, we believe, very effective, we think we can do this. So at a tactical level, it is true, each sector does have to have its own strategy. And so whether it was in our janitorial sector or in our airport sector, given the laws and the nuances of the contracts and the relationships with the employers, that we do have to do hard thinking. We're not operating in some other reality that's different than U.S. labor law. So I won't get into the nitty gritty of those details, but we're going to work together with Mayday Strong and other environments to try and help support locals that are serious about going in that direction, so that at least you can have the tools that we've been able to learn. In many cases, for example, workers actually made demands on the employer to shut the employer down for that day. That is a version, there's many different pieces to it, but that was a version of what the St. Paul teachers did, where they were putting pressure on the administration to shut down for the day. Minneapolis Institute of Arts is a museum in the Twin Cities. Local 26 workers were there along with another local, and they petitioned the employer to close, and the employer closed. So in that case, it is not workers coming off the job, but it is actually demands on the employer to close. That is just one of the many different tactics, I think, that were used by different unions. But again, to underscore, this was a serious engagement of our own membership to educate them on their rights and how they could honor this social strike, this social day of economic shutdown in a way that we felt was still consistent with the laws and the parameters that are on us as unions. So I think the key piece to that is really getting with our own membership and again, now I'm speaking specifically within unions, although this is, of course, is true of our social movement partners and community organizations, church-based, community-based, renters-based, the many kinds that are very strong in the Twin Cities area, that we start that education early. In our case, there is an alignment of organizations, some of which are on the call, that had large meetings, 300 members, top leaders in the room, talking about the slide towards authoritarianism of this current administration, talking about the kind of things that have been powerful and necessary and nonviolent, peaceful struggles around the world. And so doing that education on the front end, before we knew anything about the surge of ICE in the Twin Cities proper, before we even thought of the date of the 23rd of January, but building those muscles and that common analysis across our organization, extremely important on the front end. Then also doing assessments. How were we testing the strength of our worksite leaders so that whatever came at us, that we knew that we had a good, solid structure of worksite leaders. Obviously, normal traditional strikes build that. Many U.S. labor unions have not done a traditional strike in a long time. So using those opportunities, if you have one in front of you, to get ready is critical, but also thinking about other assessments. For example, our members ran a petition demanding that the companies and the building owners contribute to a legal defense fund. That is not a violation of any contract. It's just asking for basically mid-contract bargaining about a particular economic demand, which was very concrete for the membership. But we use that as a structure test to build the steward structure and the member participation and buy-in, so that then down the road, when there was calls from the community, that we had the structure to be able to educate our members and honor those. So those are just some concrete examples. But the point is, we know how to organize, use those same organizing ideas in building towards this kind of a moment. This is not some other parallel moment. Build off of strong organizing tendencies. The final one I would say is, obviously that is just a story within Local 26, within one local. Really think on the front end, and you can build this now. Obviously, our brothers and sisters in LA and Chicago showed us how to do this. You can build the community alignment and infrastructure of shared resources across organizations before the ICE escalation happens in your town, because it is coming for you. And if these same federal agents aren't coming after immigrants in your town, they will be coming after union leaders. You know, they are building an army that will come after us no matter what their particular excuse is. So this is the time to build the community alignment so that you are not isolated and alone. And I would say, again, mirroring other folks that can even say more to this on this call, you know, thinking about service and mutual aid is one piece to build community alignment around, building around rapid response and the different nodes of the community that need to lead on that. Often the rapid response is probably not best housed within a union itself. And so how can we find the partners that have the structure to do that and help support them? And then really thinking about beyond the mutual aid and the rapid response, which are necessary first layers, how are we building a space that can go on offense? And it is those kind of spaces that can think offensively about, are there corporations that we can hold accountable to put public pressure on getting ICE out? That was one of the main focuses of the 23rd, was to switch a focus to some of the big corporations that decide in Minnesota and put the pressure on them. But a center of offense that can think about tactics like a no work, no shop, no school day. You need to have that space, which may not be the same space that is the center of gravity around mutual aid and rapid response. So those are just some of the immediate lessons. So excited to hear from other folks here and keep figuring this out together as we nationalize the kind of pressure that we've tried to create in the Twin Cities and really push for a true change.
Give it up to Greg, y'all. There were so many questions for you, Greg, on the chat. We actually do have a team of volunteers that are answering questions in real time. So it'll take them a little bit of time to get to you, but please use the chat, give it up. Look at all those heart emojis. Give it up to Greg. We're learning so much from Minnesota. But I love the one line. It's like, if we keep telling ourselves that we cannot do it, that's problem number one. So we just got to start from there. How do we get it done? The other thing I want to tell folks too is that we also want to make sure we follow up with all of you, because we know that you want to do more in your own neighborhoods, in your own cities and towns. So if I can get everyone to text the word solidarity to 58910. We'll drop it in the chat too. Text the word solidarity to 58910. And then now we're going to do a quick poll, right, Tamika? We're going to ask people how they're feeling after hearing Greg. So folks, you're going to see a poll come up. The question is, were you inspired by Minnesota? Do you want to try to pull this off nationwide? Please answer the poll. We're going to show the results in real time. While you do that, also text the word solidarity to 58910, and we're going to get you all plugged in. Please, team, let me know if we have responses already on the poll and we're still waiting, but just showing you all so much gratitude. Tamika, how are you feeling? That I was like taking like real-time notes.
Right. Right. Like I think first and foremost, Minnesota has just really been such a model and such an example. And I'm excited to continue to hear more from folks in Minnesota. And so that was really exciting. And I really appreciated this piece around community alignment because we know that there are going to be things that folks need in order for them to participate. in a general strike. And so talking about how you connect to mutual aid, how you connect to some other organizations that might have to hold a rapid response, and everyone can't do all the things. So I'm really grateful for that. I do want to flag that I see a couple folks chiming in the chat. And there are a couple of numbers that are floating through there. And I want to make sure that we have the correct information. You all have the correct information. We want to text solidarity to 58910. That's 58910. Okay.
Right.
And the results are up.
I think so. All right, team, tell us, how are the folks feeling in this call?
We got 62% of folks said, hell yes, I am motivated by Minnesota. And 61% said, hell yes, I want to try to pull it off nationwide, general strike nationwide. And so we're glad that you're here so you can hear more about what it takes to build us toward a general strike. But everybody say yes. Everybody say yes or hell yes.
They wouldn't be in this time, but now we just gotta start doing it, right, y'all? Which is why we want you to be plugged in. Again, text solidarity to 58910. And then Tamika, we have another speaker, right?
We do. And just again, to Nadi's point, if you have questions, this chat, if you see it, it's moving super duper fast. So look on the bottom of your screen, you'll see the Q&A function. Click in Q&A, and then you can ask your question there, and you'll have a better chance of us actually seeing it so that we can answer it, okay? All right, so we're going to keep moving. Our next guest, we're going to pass it to our next guest, who is Hardy Merriman, talking to us about how general strikes work in relationship to authoritarian regimes. So please welcome Hardy Merriman.
Great. Thank you so much, Nadie and Tamika. And I just want to start, Greg, you were on fire there. That was amazing. So much respect to you, your leadership, SEIU Local 26, and the organizers and everyday people all over Minnesota who came out in the last month and showed that you can make repression backfire, that showed that you can actually, in spite of the losses that you took in Minnesota, which were heartbreaking, actually have your community end up stronger, more united, with greater solidarity, with greater activation, with greater energy than even before the attack came. And so really, thank you for sending that message, both to the administration, but also to the rest of us, to show us what is possible. It is incredibly powerful. And as we think about building on it, I want to bring in some of experience, not just from our country, but from around the world. My work has focused for over 20 years on supporting movements that fight for rights, freedom, and justice against autocratic governments around the world. And here are some insights from general strikes that I think we can take from other folks who have faced similar circumstances. So the first point I would make is that general strikes are a capacity that you absolutely want to build if you're confronting an autocratic government. General strikes are often the strongest way that a population can assert their rights and exercise power when a government's violating the Constitution. For example, calls for general strikes have been critical in stopping authoritarian coups in places like Guatemala and South Korea, and for stopping violent government repression in places like Sudan. The way to stop authoritarians is to organize and push back. Nonviolent civil resistance using tactics like strikes, boycotts, protests, and other acts of non-cooperation, one of the most powerful ways to do so. And so under any authoritarian regime, workers, unions, and professional associations should be working regularly to network and build capacity for collective action. And when they strengthen their capacity to strike, sometimes they don't even have to use that capacity fully. Sometimes just signaling the ability to strike is enough to get an authoritarian to back down. Second thing is that calls for a general strike can spread very quickly, but it's really important to bear in mind that successful general strikes entail a lot of preparation. They build on preparation. The kind of things that Greg was talking about, the organizing in the community, often that happens ahead of time, the networks of trust, the solidarity that is built, that is the foundation of successful collective action, non-cooperation, and strikes. So people have to organize, unify, and coordinate in advance. Networks of trust have to be built if they're not there already. And I say more about this, but I know others are going to speak more about it on this call. A third is that general strikes are a full community commitment. The burden to strike is not just on organized labor or workers. Instead, general strikes require the support of people from many walks of life. People come together to collectively provide for community needs while a strike is ongoing, and everyone can play a role in this. The fourth thing is that the timing of general strikes matters a lot. General strikes are typically called only in extreme circumstances when the Constitution is being violated. And I want to share a couple examples from other countries to put a little more detail on this. So in Guatemala in 2023, a deeply corrupt regime attempted to sabotage presidential elections. They started by disqualifying popular candidates before the elections were even held. They prevented them from even running in the election. And then after the first round of voting, the regime raided the offices of the leading opposition party and the offices of the Supreme Electoral Tribunal. Then after the runoff election, the second round of voting, when the regime's preferred candidate lost, the regime seized ballots and refused to recognize election results. They threatened judges and they tried to prosecute the election winner. Indigenous groups responded by launching a national strike in defense of democracy, which escalated over the course of about 3 weeks to mass mobilization and blocking roads in over 140 locations around the country. This widespread nonviolent defiance fostered defections among the regime's pillars of support. Businesses, judges, bureaucrats, and others began to shift away from the regime. And ultimately, the regime had no choice but to accept the results of the election. Here's another example of the power of general strikes. In South Korea, on December 3rd, 2024, President Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law. He ordered troops to seize the parliament and other key infrastructure around the capital. But within an hour and a half of President Yoon's declaration, the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions put out a call for people to rally to parliament and protect it so that members of parliament could vote down martial law. The opposition leader in parliament live streamed his drive to the building, asking people to come down and join him to defend democracy. After the coup was foiled, the next day, the Confederation of Trade Unions announced that they will begin escalating towards a general strike until President Yoon leaves power. 10 days later, President Yoon was impeached. Over the coming months, the unionists and others continued to mobilize and push for his removal, including preparing for a general strike if needed. In April of 2025, the Constitutional Court delivered a unanimous verdict that Yoon was removed from office. So this is another example of the power of general strikes, and we'll actually hear more about this particular example on this call. But I also want to be clear that the reason pro-democracy movements tend to launch general strikes only under extreme circumstances is because general strikes are hard. They impose costs on society and they entail risk. One of those risks is that sometimes a regime can just wait the strike out. For example, in 2003, managers in Venezuela's petroleum sector called for an indefinite strike to push President Hugo Chavez to resign. But Chavez just waited for the workers out and used it as an excuse to fire 60% of them and replace them with loyalists. So the oil strikers had a lot of leverage and power, but their strike ultimately backfired and left Chavez even stronger than before. Had the workers timed the strike at a different moment, as a response to a stolen election, for example, it may have been successful in forcing a democratic transition of power. So in closing, building towards a general strike capacity is very important for pro-democracy movements. General strikes are often critical at key moments in stopping autocrats and enforcing the Constitution. But movements also need to be strategic about when and under what circumstances they use that capacity to ensure it creates democratic change. So I will stop there and pass back to Nady and Tamika. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hardy. There's so many specific questions in the chat, and I just want to really show appreciation to all of you to be so on it. People will get to you. The chat is moving really fast, so just give us a little patience. And then Tamika, we wanted to make sure that folks were texting the right number again, right?
Correct. So the number is 58910. You're going to text solidarity to that number, and that will get you the next steps, the follow-up from this call and leading up to May Day. So 58910, text solidarity.
Yes. And we are gonna keep moving, y'all. There's a lot of amazing folks that have pulled this off or have been part of similar, actions and just to this scale of work. So I'm really, really proud to now introduce to all of us Wol Sang Lim, who is the International and Policy Director of the KPTU Cargo Trucker Solidarity Division. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you to the MCs and to everybody for who's organized this webinar and for having me. I am really honored to be able to participate and contribute at least a little bit to what is an incredibly important effort going on in the US right now. My name is Wol Sang Lim. As introduced, I work for the Korean Public Service and Transport Workers Union Cargo Trucker Solidarity Division, which organizes owner-driver truck drivers in South Korea. I wanted to thank you to Hardy for giving some of the background on the fight against authoritarianism, martial law, and the fight that eventually got us to impeachment of the conservative president Yoon Suk-yeol. Because I can maybe give less background and go a little bit behind the scenes and give less of the sort of day-to-day of it and go behind the scenes and into some of the history. But I wanted to start by just saying that in Korea, every time we have a protest, a strike, or other protest or a meeting, we start by remembering our martyrs. We have a moment of silence, and then we sing a song that is about remembering the martyrs of the democracy movement. And the fight against martial law in Gwangju in 1980. And I thought that it was important to think about that here because you are in fact inheriting the spirit of your martyrs and using that to mobilize. And that's a very big part of the Korean labor movement and social movement as well. As Hardy said, on December 3rd, 2024, the conservative president Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law, and immediately the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions, which is like the AFL-CIO of Korea, mobilized to bring everybody out to the National Assembly to stand off with martial law forces in order to allow lawmakers to get inside to vote down that act. And just to go behind the scenes a little bit, so as soon as we were shocked by seeing the president come on TV suddenly around 10:30 at night and make this declaration. We had not expected it, but behind the scenes then, from the top leadership of the KCTU and the international, what you would call international, we call national unions or the industrial unions, the leaderships of those unions mobilized very quickly where they needed to, online meetings or in person, but also in some cases just by signal. We use Telegram to make a quick decision to call everybody out. And then everybody in the labor movement got a call by text message to come to the National Assembly. So I was sitting on my couch with my partner and we looked at our phones and we ran out to the National Assembly where there were crowds and standing off with soldiers and armored vehicles. Things proceeded just as Hardy had said. And I just say that because I think it's important to see that, there's this structure in place that comes from the top leadership down through the unions to make that kind of mobilization possible. And as Hardy said as well, the next day, the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions did make a call for general strike action and then moved very quickly with other unions to coming together in coalition with other social forces and hold protests every day, and particularly large ones on the weekend. And that moved to us to be able to win impeachment in the National Assembly and then eventually have that upheld in the Constitutional Court in April of 2025. So Yoon Suk-yeol, the president, is now in jail on trial, and we are in a new moment, which gives us a little bit more space to win things for workers and for the general public. So in that process, the KCTU did call for a general strike, but just as Greg was talking about earlier, the type of strike action or mobilization that was going on during this phase is not a traditional, what you've been calling an economic strike. So just as in the United States, your laws, your labor laws, stop you basically from engaging in anything other than a strike that is tied to collective bargaining and very limited demands in a specific time period. The same is true in Korea, and Korean unions do all of the time try to coordinate collective bargaining contract cycles, you would call them collective bargaining cycles, so that we can take legal strike action at the same time workplace demands and then the political demands that we're working with. But in this moment, there were not many unions that were able to do this, right? And so the call for a general strike was exactly what you're talking about. Get your members out, and for the public to come out and get out on the streets in any way possible. And we might do that by calling a membership meeting. Might do it by using your day off, or asking members to use your day off, come when you're not on a shift, and but be out in the streets as much as possible. And the labor movement during this period played a very important role of holding space for the rest of the public. And so, for example, holding a labor rally in the streets before the main mass rally with other non-organized forces. So to bring members out around their demands, but then be able to create space to bring other people in and to open that space for people who are less organized, and use the mobilizing power that unions have and have built up over years in order to make the space safe and open for other people. And so why is it that trade unions have this capacity? Other things, what do the trade unions do? Money, organizational capacity, institutional capacity, coming together with other forces, bringing out vehicles, our big vehicles that have loudspeakers. But why do we have this? It's because trade unions in Korea, the labor movement really comes out of a tradition of mobilizing for democracy. And so the history of the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions is really the labor movement. The democratic labor movement was born out of a fight in 1987 against military dictatorship for democracy. And the lessons from that were, we need to build industrial unions to be able to organize on an industrial level and across the economy. And we need to be able to centralize our power in order to be able to mobilize on this level. And we need to tie our economic demands to a broader critique of structural problems in society and the structures that contribute to non-democratic forces, right? And so that history of mobilizing for, at the one point, on the one hand, economic demands in democracy in the workplace tied to our broader social demands and demands for a democratic society, that is in the DNA of trade unions, and it's in the history of trade unions in Korea. And I understand that, there are different histories in the United States and in South Korea, and you cannot transplant what has happened here into the US, but I do think that there are lessons that you can draw, right? So one of them is that you draw on your history, and another is that you inherit that spirit of martyrs that you now have very much around you. So what were they fighting for? We have to take that on and bring that to our members. And then another thing would be that we're bringing that history and that spirit on a daily level to our membership through not just the mobilization in the streets, but more everyday education. And so one of the things, for example, that the teachers union did during this time was, in addition to being out in the streets and bringing members out on the street, creating educational materials that could be given to teachers who are in the schools, right? To be able to teach their students about that history of fighting for democracy, and how that's connected to the present movement and how we need to be out in the streets. And so that kind of, I think this really ties into what both Greg was saying and Hardy was saying earlier, that there's a process of preparation that happens on an everyday level that is, even in sort of non-crisis times, that prepares you for coming out in the moment that you need to. And I think that you're in a compression moment, as you said, but at the same time preparing for the next fight. So I'll talk just a little bit about my own union in this moment and how that kind of connects to what you're doing, and then I'll end. So it was interesting for me to hear about this distinction between economic strike and social strike in the beginning. In Korea, as I said, we do try to go through the regular legal processes to mobilize general strikes, which I understand is going on in the US. We sort of aimed at 2028, so aligning collective bargaining agreements. But as I said, you can't do that in moments where you have to be out immediately. So you look for other ways to do this. The union that I'm part of, which is the truck drivers union, we are owner drivers, meaning that we don't even have the legal right to collectively bargain and strike in the way that other unions do. And so truck drivers, but under the authoritarian Yoon Suk-yeol government, were facing massive amounts of oppression and attack on the systems that we won that give us just basic rights, like basic pay rights and basic protections. And so in 2022, took a decision to go on to withhold our labor, right? And come out into the streets and protest. The protest strike action went a total of like 24 days. So did that without having the legal right to strike, but brought together, the forces of truck drivers to mobilize in front of ports and logistics hubs around the country, so that, we had in the streets tens of thousands of drivers, but the impact on the economy was in the end billions of US dollars because of being able to block logistics and distribution. Now, the attack on truck drivers because of that was severe, and we went through a very, very difficult period afterwards. But and so that truck drivers really understand what it means to have martial law in the workplace. But the result of that mobilization and how that the aftermath of that blended into then this fight that we were able to have against the repressive government in 2024. And so, building from that momentum to be able to come back into the streets and contribute to the fight against martial law when it came out. And so, I think that the lesson from that is that you mobilize in whatever way that you can based on your industry or the sector that you're in, and that you are willing to take that action when you need to. I think it's really important to recognize that our members and the public follow courage, right? And so there's a task for leaders in movements, and leaders can be in very different places in a union. They could be on the ground, the leaders on the ground, a leader in a local, a leader in a national union. But the actions that you take by saying, I'm willing to stand up in this moment, I'm willing to put myself on the line, that creates the space for members and other non-organized forces to come out. And so I think I want to leave with that message and say again, just thank you for having me. Inherit the spirit of your martyrs, fight with that spirit, draw on your history, take leadership, and create space for those who are less organized to come out into the streets with you. Tujang.
Thank you so much, Wolsan. We've learned so much, everyone. Keep your questions coming. There's actually a Q&A section that we want folks to use for your questions, because the chat is just on fire. So we're going to lose it if you don't use the Q&A. Just wanted to let folks, 1,330 of you have already texted the word solidarity to 58910, and that'll ensure that you get the recording of this call. Tamika, anything else we want to uplift before our next awesome speaker?
Keep using the Q&A function. If you are wanting, I see a number of people asking about a recording. So there are 3 ways to see this video after it's done. 1, if you registered for this call, you will get the recording. 2, If you text Solidarity to 58910, you will get the recording. And 3, the video will be up on YouTube on the Acre Campaigns YouTube channel. That's ACRE Campaigns. So if you go on YouTube, search it up. I think we might drop the link in the chat. Those are the 3 ways you can access this video after the call.
That's right. And so with that, our next illustrious speaker, we're so lucky to have Mayor Brandon Johnson. I know he's the mayor of Chicago, but I feel like you're the mayor of all of us. That's what
we claim you here. We claim you here in Atlanta as well.
That's right. Please claim Albuquerque. So thank you for making time, Mayor Johnson.
Thank you for creating space for me, and good evening, everyone. I'm truly honored to join labor leaders and, of course, the scholars, particularly the scholars on authoritarianism and just everyday people for this critical moment in our nation's history and this critical moment for the left. I wanted to join the call to say to you all that the city of Chicago stands with working people of this country. You know, the solidarity stand with unions that have joined this fight. We stand, of course, with community leaders. We stand with all of you who are part of this overall movement for justice. This is not about fighting to return our country to how it was before. In fact, this is about fighting for true transformation. This is about fighting for a country where human needs become just the regular practice of human rights. And when we talk about fighting authoritarianism and fighting for our democracy, this is something I want to just be absolutely clear about, that we're not talking about punching a ballot every 4 years. This is about real and true democracy. We're talking about the definition of what it means to be a labor leader. I'm always, reminded of the great work of A. Philip Randolph when he talked about this very concept. A community is democratic only when the humblest and weakest person can enjoy the highest civil, economic, and social rights that the biggest and most powerful possess. I put forward the call months ago for a general strike, a call that the labor movement had already begun to put forward because, we all recognize that protesting is not going to be enough to meet this moment. We need to leverage our economic power. We need to leverage our ability to have work stoppages, striking power. If we really want to see not only an end to the worst of the abuse that we've seen with the Trump administration, but also real transformation that changes the course of history. And just finally, in Minneapolis, we saw the beginning of everyday people coming together around a core set of demands. We saw people take it to the streets, shut down their small businesses, walk out of their factories. We saw the fact that working people make this country run, and we are beginning to realize what our true collective power looks like. And this is really about a multicultural, multi-generational movement of working people fighting for a transformational, progressive agenda. And so now we need to expand that fight. We need to speak, and continue to raise our voices, but we need to spark to continue to be lit, as we're seeing in Minneapolis. We want that to catch fire across this country. And that only happens when organizing and meetings like this one take place. So again, I'm just really grateful to be with you all this evening, just to share this message of solidarity and to say that as mayor of Chicago, I stand with you all in this fight. And, whatever, you all need in this moment from me, I'm available to do that. But, we need to make sure that corporations, billionaires, see our collective organizing power. They're only going to respond to the demands that we put forward when we ensure that it's a collective, powerful stand. That rent is high, groceries are high. In the richest country in the world, there's no reason for the basic rights like housing, good paying jobs, access to mental health care, transportation, public education, many of the demands, of course, that descendants of slaves fought for, until every single person has an equality opportunity to pursue a better and a healthier life, whether you are documented or not. That's what our collective fight has to be. So, but ain't no power, as you all know, like the power of the people. So onward, continue this charge, Chicago to Minneapolis to every single suburb, village, and town. We have to ensure that this new social order that we are building, that we don't miss this opportunity. Let's make sure that there's a real fair distribution of wealth, the basic needs that are being met. I'm using executive authority through executive orders, legislation, litigation, but the power of the people on the ground has to prevail. When the people are united, we will prevail. So thank you all. God bless you all. And let's continue this fight for justice. Let's ensure that the next generation looks back in this moment and find strength from us, that we were the generation to stand firm against the ultra rich. You know, just as Brandy said, that you can either have a democracy or wealth concentrated in the hands of the few, but you cannot have both. And so let's realize what our collective power is to ensure that we have a democracy that works for everyone. God bless you all, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Johnson. Definitely had me about to slip my Women's March hat back on and lead us in some chants in the space. Thank you again. We're gonna keep us moving so that we have so many phenomenal speakers. I know folks, I saw questions in the chat around collaboration, and I just want you to recognize, y'all, that this is a moment where collaboration and coordination is happening. There are so many organizations, so many formations on this call, so we can get us all in formation. And I just want to name that coordination and collaboration does not necessarily mean collapse in a single strategy, friends. It means that we are using a multiplicity of strategies and tactics, that we are coordinating and moving in the same direction. And so that is why we are all here on this call today, where you are hearing from so many organizations, why you see so many folks who are saying, here's a thing you can do. Here's a thing you can do. Everything ain't for everybody, but our invitation is to get in somewhere. All right. So I'm going to bring us, oh wait, Nady, anything you want to add in before I keep us moving?
No, let's keep it moving. This is why Mayor Johnson is the people's mayor. So
yes, and Chicago turned up in the chat too. All right, our next speakers are Daniel Hunter from Freedom Trainers and David Shore from the Grassroots Democracy Initiative. Please welcome them to the call.
Thank you, Tamika. It's great to be on a call with, just as you said, like such an auspicious crew with so many different folks who represent so many different approaches, ways in, but all heading in a similar direction around this. So I'm Dana Hunter. I'm with Freedom Trainers. We've been training about 500,000 people last year on anti-authoritarianism and non-cooperation. And so listening to what others have already said, I'm really struck just by like a shared tension that keeps coming up, which is, on the one hand, there's this urgency of the moment. And the reality also that movements can't just will themselves into power. They have to actually organize into it. And so we can feel how much is at stake. And at the same time, we know that not every call, not every escalation turns immediately into a breakthrough. So we're building this concept of a strike as something unique in the United States. We have not, most of us do not have recent memory about this. We have to really dig back in history for large scale strikes of this sort. Obviously, Minnesota being a most recent example outside of that. And when we're doing something unique, it's just helpful to remind ourselves that we should be gentle with each other in terms of none of us have certainty about how things will unfold. And therefore, some people will say it should be this thing and it should be this thing. And we're going to have some different theories and approaches. And so let's hold each other together in that. Rather than being points of separation, it's points of glue, because the glue is the thing that makes the general strike possible, the collectivity, the solidarity. So one of the things that we saw in Minnesota was that there are ingredients for a strike that some of which you simply can't generate on demand. So there's some parts that are out of your control, so you can't schedule them like a meeting. There's things like the critical timing. So an issue has to be blazing hot. Public attention has to be locked in. Media, community conversations were converging. And so that focus made it possible to do some things that weren't possible in other moments. And that's not unique to Minnesota. That's really the history of general strikes in this country and others. One of the largest general strikes, just as an example, in the United States happened, some of you know this history of December 1946 in Oakland, California. So union organizing had already been growing for many years. And there was already pressure inside the system. There were workers who were already restless and asking for more, urging for more, organizing for more. And then a small department store fired a woman employee. It was one firing, It was very minor in terms of the many things they had been doing, but it was the wrong moment. It struck a nerve. And so workers at the department store said they're going to go out on strike. That situation escalated very quickly when police escorted strikebreakers in through the picket line. That image was put on newspapers across the city, cops physically pushing people through, and that became the match. And so when it lit, it started to spread very fast. More than 100,000 workers walked off the job: Teamsters, longshore workers, streetcar operators, city employees. Oakland shut down. And not just because someone had issued a perfect call, but because the conditions had already been there. So it wasn't just the match, but also the kindling that had been done before. So we can't always predict what's going to be the match, but we can always grow the kindling. And so I want to emphasize this because it's important. So just telling people to light the match isn't going to be enough. So over the last decades, I think I've tracked almost 300 different calls for general strikes in the United States. None of them, of the ones that I've been tracking, are going to be remembered in history books. Most don't move much at all. So this is not just a matter of calling for it. You cannot meme your way to a general strike. So the difference isn't whether someone used the right words, or it's whether or not the conditions have existed and whether the structures have existed to do it. And so that's why our focus really has to shift from just calling a general strike to really building strike readiness. So in Minnesota, as Greg mentioned, there were already a lot of key ingredients, kindling, that made that one-day economic blackout possible. There's dense organizing networks. There were relationships across unions and community groups that had been built. There are recent fights, including the killing of George Floyd, that had sharpened people's sense of injustice and the structures to respond together. There were leaders who had practiced moving people before, and there was a shared sense that it wasn't symbolic, but actually that participation mattered. So those things don't happen overnight, they're built. And so that's why one of the things that we've been doing over at Freedom Trainers and with others has been building up some training capacity specifically to help community groups. So we're thinking of folks who are not brothers, sisters, and siblings, not in unions per se, but folks who are outside of that structure to think about how do we get strike ready? Because there are skills and practices that we need long before a real strike is on the table. And that means connections that we have to build with our labor brother and sister and siblings, as well as other things that we also need to be doing. Some people have been mentioning practicing solidarity, feeding striking workers, building mutual aid networks, practicing direct action. All these things can contribute. So one of the things that unions have been doing, Greg mentioned it, was structure tests. A structure test is just a way to assess your capacity before you take a big risk. It answers questions like, how many people will actually move with you? When you make a call, do other people follow you, or do you just shout into the wind? Who moves? Who hesitates? What are the weak points? So the Women's March, Tamika, for example, used a walkout as a structure test. So it wasn't just an expression, it was information. It told organizers what kind of coordination was possible and where deeper organizing was still needed. So that's where training can really help, because without training, we can confuse hope with capacity. We can mistake noise for power. So training helps us really understand how to test ourselves more honestly, to strengthen our formation and scale in ways that don't collapse under pressure. So together with Mayday Strong, Freedom Trainers, and Grassroots Democracy, we're launching a shared effort called Strike Ready. And so at the moment, the website, it'll be pasted in the chat, is just freedomtrainers.net/trainings, all with S's afterwards. So freedomtrainers, plural, .net, and trainings, plural. Why plural? Because it's going to take more than just one. It's going to be a bunch of us. So it's a place where what we're doing, we're setting up a training next week on February 9th, where we're teaching, especially those of us outside of traditional labor structures, how do we build some of the conditions to support mass non-cooperation? So not how to just magically summon a general strike, but how to build that kindling, so that when a match does appear, because history tells us it will, and we can tell it's here, that when the match does appear, that we're ready. So I'm going to hand over to David just to add a little bit more about this.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Daniel, and everyone on this call. There are some real profound wisdoms and inspiration. And I actually live here in Oakland, and so feel particularly moved by that general strike example. Hello, everybody. My name is David. I am the director of Grassroots Democracy, and our new project, the Strike Ready Corps, is a movement of everyday people building strike-ready workplaces and communities one step at a time. We're in a moment with real potential, as we see, but to meet it, we really need mass non-cooperation. And like Daniel said, a strike doesn't start when the match is struck. A strike starts when the match is struck and when the kindling is ready. That kindling is skill, it's relationships, it's practice. I saw that firsthand when I was in Minneapolis last week, leading up to the January 23rd Day of Truth and Freedom, and then ICE's murder of Alex Preddy the very next day. In that time, I saw the very worst and the very best of humanity all in one place. But the best was that people were stepping up in the face of all of that, right? Neighbors, nurses, new organizers, just building relationships and systems on the fly, not just taking the day off from work, but knocking on neighbors' doors in negative degree weather, talking to coworkers, flyering local businesses, giving rides, feeding each other, building something that could actually last. And that's the level of organizing we need. And more, way, way more. We need it everywhere to get to a sustained, impactful general strike. And what does it mean for you to get strike ready? For us, it's first, you get trained, learn how mass non-cooperation around withholding our labor actually works. Second, you get organized, start building a network in your workplace and community to act together. And third, you get connected. When you join Strike Ready Corps, you're not signing up to do this alone. You're flanking a growing movement of unions, organizations, and everyday people. It's a network that you can learn from and lean on and organize with. You'll connect with people across the country. You'll get support from organizers, and you'll get to know when our movement is ready, when we finally have that match and the kindling at the same time. Strike Ready Corps is a leaderful movement, and we want you to be a part of it. Our first training, like Daniel said, is February 9th. We're offering it twice, once at 6 p.m. and again at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can sign up at that link in the chat or freedomtrainers.net/trainings, again, with S's at the end of all of those. So grateful to be in this with you. Can't wait to see you on February 9th and far beyond. And yeah, thank you so much, and I'll pass it back to the MCs.
Thank you so much to David and to Daniel. My child is making noise. Thank you. Thank you so much to all of you. And again, the links for the training are in the chat. Because we heard Sam mention about preparedness. We heard a number of people talking about how do we get ready? How do we prepare ourselves? And this is one of the ways, one of the steps, one of the resources to do that. Nady, anything you wanted to say before we move to the next?
We have 1,602 of you that have opted in using the share code that we've been sharing. So if you text the word solidarity to 58910, you will get the recording of this. You will get the links for the next trainings. You'll get the follow-up. So if you want to make sure to do that, again, text the word solidarity to 58910.
Thank you, Nady. And we see so many of you just sort of keeping it moving in the chat. We see lots of questions. Again, use the Q&A function. We're coming to them as much as we can. Of course, there are almost 3,000 of y'all on this call. So we may not get to every question, but we are doing our very best. So next up, we are going to bring onto the webinar Aru Shiny Ajay, who is with the Sunrise Movement.
Hey y'all, great to speak with you and great to join this wonderful lineup of speakers. My name is Aru. I'm the executive director of the Sunrise Movement, and I live in South Minneapolis. I grew up in South Minneapolis, so I've been on the ground here, for the last 3 weeks. I want to talk a little bit about this, exactly what Daniel was talking about, this sort of this two choices we have of both knowing we urgently need much more escalation and much more strike readiness than we currently have, and seeing that a lot of people are hungering for that, and also knowing that we don't yet have the level of power that we need to actually be able to stop authoritarianism in its tracks and kick Trump out, and how we can actually bridge from one to the other. The truth is that we need escalation and we need to build up our power to get there. And I think two of the really crucial pieces to do that are in student organizing and in targeting corporations. A lot of my work on the ground in the last few weeks has been talking to students. And when I tell you that these are some of the most heartbreaking stories that I hear. 1 in 6 students in Minneapolis public schools right now is not going to class. And I hear story after story of students getting tear gassed on their own school grounds, of students talking about their friends not coming in, reading letters of students who are talking about how they just want to be able to like learn English or go to math class or play soccer with their friends. And what I think that's done is that it's like unleashed this generational anger, this generation of students who have spent their whole lives seeing things like the climate strike, seeing things like the walkouts around gun violence, seeing things like the uprisings, and realizing that mass protest is amazing, that mass marches are amazing, but they clearly aren't making the level of change needed. And so these students are really hungry for real power. And I think we saw that a few days ago when the Black Student Union at the University of Minnesota issued a call for a general strike, and it was students who answered the call. It was millions and millions of students around the country who were able to mobilize on a dime's turn. And that tends to be true throughout history, that students often are able to pave the way for other sectors of society to mobilize. Because students are able to respond quickly, see the urgency of the situation, and by students striking, we allow other sectors to strike too. And I think that hunger for escalation is also about, it stretches beyond just students, it stretches beyond just young people. It's about a hunger for effectiveness. And I think the other way that we can actually tap into that is by giving people avenues to actually prove that our power works. The problem in the US right now is not at all that people don't like what Trump is doing. It is that so many people are cynical about our ability to actually make change. And a lot of our task right now is to prove that mobilization, that organizing can actually make changes in our lives enough that all the people on the sidelines actually get motivated to join our movements. That's the biggest barrier right now. It's not fear, it's not lack of belief, it's cynicism in our ability to organize. So our task as organizers, as people on this call, is to pick fights that we can prove are winnable, that are also really public, and show people that everyday people can take it to billionaires, take it to corporations, and actually win. That's why at Sunrise, in addition to doing our student organizing, we've been going after the hotels that have actually been housing ICE in Minneapolis. And we're taking this campaign nationally to do it around the country, to actually show hotel after hotel that they have more to lose than they have to gain from standing with ICE. And we've been doing all kinds of things. We've been waking them up in the middle of the night. We've been booking out their reservations. We're running a campaign to revoke their liquor licenses. We're calling them. If you go to Hilton's social media, you'll see, we didn't even ask people to do this, but you'll see every single video that they post these days is just spammed with comments saying, you're housing ICE. And the reason that this is important is not just that everyday people run society and taking away ICE's ability to sleep places actually stops their ability to operate, but it's also that things like a Hilton campaign can prove to people that when ordinary people organize, we can knock down key pillars of society that are upholding authoritarianism. And it proves that same logic that a strike proves. It's like a campaign that can do the same thing and prepares people to be strike ready. So that's what we're doing right now. We're organizing young people. We're organizing these corporate campaigns that can prove the logic. And we are doing that all as we're building towards the day-long strike on May 1st. And it's all about the same thing, right? It's about building the capacity that we need so that ordinary people can shut down society and force billionaires to give us the world that we deserve. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Aru. Whew, okay, y'all. There's so much. Also, I saw a bunch of people on the chat. I'm just gonna say it. Like, people are like, okay, these are a lot of words. I need to get trained more. But some of us, like, this is the first time, and I really don't know what are the actual steps. So thank you. Thank you for being honest about that and like humbly sharing that feedback. We will take it back, and we know we need to figure out how to get more like popular education materials and like break it down even more for our folks. So really appreciate folks' feedback. Tamika, we have 2 amazing women up next that keep trailblazing the way for us. Not surprised, always the women up front. Proud member of the Women's March too, by the way. So shout out to all the women. It takes all of us. So Tamika, who's going up next?
Absolutely. Next up, we will have Stacey Davis Gates, who is with IFT and CTU talking Mayday.
Hey everyone. My name is Stacey Davis Gates. I'm president of the Chicago Teachers Union and the Illinois Federation of Teachers. And most importantly, in this moment, I am a high school history teacher who has a ton of appreciation and gratitude for everyone who is struggling in this moment to resist the undemocratic nature of this moment, the terror of this moment. I want to thank you for that. I'm trying to, it won't let me. Here I am. Okay.
See you.
Okay.
It looks like we might have some technical difficulties for Stacy. So we're gonna kick it. Nady, do you want to kick it? Introduce our next speaker.
Yes, another woman doing the work out there, leading the way. I'm very proud to introduce Sarah Nelson, who is the president of the Association of Flight Attendants. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, Nady. Hi, everyone. My labor siblings, a powerful working class. I have to say, it's an honor to be with all of you. It's an honor to hear from Aru, who's been on the front lines, and I think just gave a masterful review of where we are and what needs to be done. And first and foremost, people may know that I've been saying the words general strike since 2019, since the racist fear-mongering of that shutdown, where Trump tried to distract us from what was really going on, which was handing more power over to billionaires, trying to privatize all functions of our government, and trying to have us distracted with talk about trying to fund a southern border wall. And all of us were less safe in that moment. And I called on the labor movement to talk about a general strike. But our union was also preparing to strike. We were preparing for a safety strike because every single day that went on, our jobs continued to become less safe. And there was a breaking point there. I also saw this as a moment where labor really needed to stand up and have redemption after our failure to stand with the air traffic controllers in 1981 when Ronald Reagan fired all of them and told corporate America it was open season on unions. It was open season on the strike, made the strike the dirty word. That is why we have seen a 40-year decline in labor. That is why we are in this moment now. Massive inequality. I don't think that we should lose sight of that. We have to recognize that fundamentally, this has been capitalism unchecked at work here. And I want to put this in perspective because people often say, follow the money. Well, yes, follow the money of the private prisons. Watch the Alabama solution. Recognize that there has been slavery going on in this country every single day that it has existed. It has never ended through the prison system. And that now they want to build more private prisons. In fact, in that BBB bill, many of you heard about air travel stopping because the infrastructure of air travel is crumbling, because the staffing is so stretched for air traffic controllers, because the system is no longer working because we haven't invested in it. Well, millions of people use air travel every day. Our U.S. mail is delivered on our airplanes. This is a major form of connectivity for the entire economy, and yet there was 14 times as much money in that bill that went to ICE and building private prisons than there was in rebuilding our crumbling aviation infrastructure. So put that in perspective. Right now, today, there is prison labor working in Burger King and McDonald's, in Walmart, in Home Depot, in Alabama. This is the plan. So we have to be really clear that capitalism has no humanity attached whatsoever. I think it's really important that every single person read Jacobin's article by Alex Press this past week about why unions need to care about this moment and need to make immigration central to the concerns of union members and people who work, because I always say from the beginning of time that the capitalists have used racism and sexism to divide us. Well, they have used immigrants and refugees to try to divide us as well. And what they have done is they have used a different way to hold people down, to say, show me your papers, to say that you're going to be separated from your families, to say that we're going to be able to treat you as something entirely disposable, to try to dehumanize you, to try to make you not seen, and to make it so that you do not feel like you have the right to sign a union card. You don't feel like you have the right to go and talk about your story with the media and draw public attention to the problem, which is so fundamentally at odds with what we need to do in our unions, first and foremost with the old adage of an injury to one is an injury to all, which is really true. But also that the only way that we can build up power is if we do it collectively. And if one person can be mistreated and can be taken out of that mix, the rest of us are in jeopardy. Even now, as they build up the ranks of ICE, they are giving people jobs. Think about that. They are using money to attract people to this, not just the brutality, not just because someone may be mean-spirited or be inclined to do this, but they're trying to attract people with money to good paying jobs that then will be pitted against the rest of the working class. So it's really important that we understand the social constructs that we're working in, but it's also important, as a union leader myself, I can say right now that we all have to be preparing for a general strike. We all have to be preparing for that strike readiness. That is fundamentally the check on capitalism. The greatest power that we have is our labor. This world doesn't turn without it, but it only matters when we all take that action together. I have more work to do in my own union on this to understand this. And we are starting to see this seep into our airports. We had ICE agents in Minneapolis go onto a Delta plane and demand that a flight attendant help find a passenger that they wanted to take off the plane because that passenger had told them they were shameful. That's why they wanted to take them off the plane, because that passenger had told them they were shameful. This is in all of our workplaces in every single way. This is in our schools, as people have spoken about so clearly. But fundamentally, for the people who are trying to get the tools tonight about what to do next, understand that the only way that we are going to have mass action is if everyone understands what the problem is. And if everyone understands what the demands are about why we're getting into the streets. The people of Minneapolis understand this very well because the fight was brought to their doorstep. It was brought in many cases across the threshold of their doorstep, with battering rams, knocking down doors and going into these neighborhoods. The fight was brought to them. They're not even protesters, they're just defending their families, just defending their communities, defending their schools, defending their neighbors, defending the people that they count on to get food from, to fix their homes, to make sure they have internet. This is not, it's not just about protest, it's about the fact that people have no choice but to fight. In 1914, miners went on strike in Ludlow, Colorado. The coal barons were mistreating these miners and treating them as though they were totally disposable, less important than the donkeys that carried the coal out of the mines. And there were 28 languages spoken in this tent camp where the mine workers were striking. And what did the mine workers do? They called out the Colorado National Guard. They recruited people with money to have good jobs to come and enforce peace in these mines, supposedly. This was the narrative. This is the age-old narrative that they spread. And these 28 languages that were spoken were not a barrier to these mine workers talking with each other, because they were experiencing what Minneapolis is experiencing today. They were experiencing violence from the state. And in fact, what happened when they tried to organize and bring their demands, the Colorado National Guard turned and shot their leader, and then shot a 12-year-old boy who was trying to go get water, and then opened fire on the entire tent city and then set it afire. Killed 25 people. And after that fight, Mother Jones, the great organizer, came there and she said, sure you lost. Sure you lost. Because they had bayonets and all you had was the Constitution. And any competition between bayonets and the Constitution, the bayonets will win every time. But you will fight and lose, you will fight and win, but you must fight. And I want to say that in those days following that, miners came from all over Colorado and defended Ludlow, defended those strikers, helped them bury their dead, helped them mourn, helped them set up a community there, and then went on to fight and build up the strongest union in the country. That was the precursor to the auto workers and the steel workers and the communications workers and the CIO that built up our incredible labor movement that led to a point 20 years later of the onset of the greatest shared prosperity our country has ever experienced, because union density was high enough to demand it and hold that kind of power in our politics. Bringing the politics to the people, not partisan, but politics for the people. And so in this moment, as we think about what we have to do to stand up for our safety and security, we have to start with number one, defining the problem. Everyone has to understand the problem. Like I said, the people of Minnesota have learned very quickly. Regular people have learned very quickly what the problem is. There's still too many people who are too comfortable in their daily lives who are not there paying attention enough. And that is why we have to organize. That is why we have to talk about this moment. That is why we have to talk about the fight that is coming to our doorstep all across this country. And we have to organize around that. We have to set our demands. The people of Minnesota have set their demands, and they're very clear about it. It is immediate demands about ICE out and calling on corporations to be Fourth Amendment companies to stand up for their workers. We have to put that pressure on those corporations. This is not about putting pressure on the White House. This is about putting pressure on the people who control our economy. So define the problem, set your demands, back up your demands with what you're willing to do. That is the strike readiness that you're preparing for, and add urgency. And in this moment, there could not be more urgency. So we stand with you, and we are preparing and having those conversations in our union about how to shut it down, how to not participate in a system that is dehumanizing people, that is trying to extract more profit from our labor, that is trying to make our world even worse, but to actually turn that power into something where we can build the world that we want to live in and the America that it ought to be, as Dr. King said.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sarah. We are going to move us back to Stacy. Stacy's got her video back up. So we're going to come on back to Stacy. Thank you again, Sarah. That was powerful. Thank you.
Thank you. I love my sister, Stacy. I love y'all.
So yeah, there we are. Yeah, it's not moving for us. So I'm going to turn it off and just go audio only. So, hey, you all, thank you for being patient with this and taking my name and not my face. Technology, it's only good when it's good. This moment is a moment that happens every so often in this country. And as a high school history teacher, along with being a union leader, I think it is very important for me to tell other workers that the power is within us and our solidarity to end the debate on democracy and more of it for all of us. And that is well within our power, because throughout history, when it has mattered the most, workers allied with the people have always delivered more for America. So the story of workers creating the opportunity to give sanctuary to Black Americans escaping Jim Crow fascism. Those were Pullman porters. They carried newspapers like the Chicago Defender back and forth to Mississippi, where my family caught wind of Chicago and moved north, right? Workers created sanctuary for Black Americans to leave the terror of Jim Crow. Workers did that. But I'm also very clear about how complete our community must be. And to be complete, we must have community. So I'm reminded of Fred Hampton and his ability to organize all of us to this idea of meeting people where they are and giving them what they need. In this moment of terror, we need mutual aid and community. Build the health clinic. Figure out how to give them breakfast, meet people where they are, and organize them to justice and plenty for all of us. And then finally, transformation comes by the worker when it is allied in an interracial, intergenerational, and in movements led by women. And I'm reminded of my ancestors who left the plantation and broke the back of the Confederacy, drawing an end to that debate over our humanity and reunited the country, right? And then gave way to citizenship, gave way to enfranchisement to all men, not just rich white men. It gave us the abolition of slavery, unless you're jailed. And it gave us a Freedmen's Bureau that begets the Department of Education, that begets the Department of Health, that begets the Department of Housing. It forms the social safety net and gives people an expectation that this government can be more for all of us. That's what workers did, allied with white abolitionists and Black abolitionists led by women, workers. So in this moment, we get to leverage our power of solidarity. We get to leverage our power of coalition. We get to leverage our power of democracy by organizing people. You better tell them the truth. You better tell them that every single time this country has had a debate on humanity, on democracy, on if the wealthy gets to keep playing us and we get to keep taking it, that the worker has settled that debate for all of us with more. So put your boots on, organize, and when it comes time to leverage what we need to create and expand, be ready to take the call.
That's right. We heard it. We heard it all. We gotta be ready to take the call. Thank you so much, President Stacey Davis Gates. We know we're running late, y'all. So we just want to ask, like, we have a few more speakers. Thank you all for being super patient. There's just been a lot of information we want to cover, but this is the first one of many. So please keep texting the word solidarity to 58910. There will be more calls, more trainings coming up. And up next, we have Ezra Levin with Indivisible to share how they're thinking about this moment too.
Hey folks, thanks for having me. What an incredible group of folks to be on this call. I don't have much to add to everything that folks have said because everybody here has been so brilliant. I feel steeped in history. I feel steeped in the power of the organizing that's been done so far. Hey, I'm from Indivisible, folks. Let me know in the chat if there are Indivisibles out there. I thought I'd talk a little bit about how we've been seeing this moment that we're in over the last year and what we think this year is looking like, because I don't think this year ends the way we all want it to end. That doesn't end with folks actually organizing countrywide with a general strike. The story of 2025, the way I see it, is a story of a fascist attack on our country and the story of elites bowing down, trying to figure out how they could hide away and in some cases support the fascist regime. So this is media, this is businesses, this is law firms, this is universities, this is many people at the most elite levels of the political ecosystem, including some in the Democratic Party who were trying to figure out how to go along with Trump. That was the story of elites and the story of the fascists in the White House and the fascist enablers in Congress. It was not the story of normal people. We all saw that, right? From the get-go, normal people said they weren't going to put up with this shit. And they started organizing in historic numbers. We saw 3 million people come out for Hands Off, 3 million people in 1,300 events, Hands Off in April. At the time, largest protest we had seen in years and years and years. That flowed into the biggest May Day protest in history. 3 million people in Hands Off, 5 million people for No Kings 1 in June, 7 million people for No Kings 2 in October. Now, the result of that year of organizing is that Trump and his regime, look, they're undeniably weaker now. They are undeniably weaker. His approval ratings in the toilet. His coalition in Congress is fracturing. People do not sit by anymore and just accept what he says. There's actual confrontation against his regime. And also, while he is undeniably weaker, we can all see with our eyes, he is undeniably dangerous. And this is something I learned from Hardy Merriman and learned from Erica Chenoweth and Maria Stephan and other experts in authoritarianism. In many ways, a weakened authoritarian is more dangerous because they lash out. They try to attack more. They feel the walls closing in, and they don't like that because no authoritarian willingly gives up power. That's not how it works. We know that's not how it works. Earlier this, last week, time has no meaning. Last week, we announced No Kings 3. No Kings 3 on March 28th. This is going to be the largest protest in American history. And that might sound like bluster, y'all, but I've made that claim twice before, and it's been true twice before. No Kings 3 on March 28th is going to be the largest protest in American history, and it's going to flow directly into May Day about a month later, which I believe will be the largest May Day in history. And I am super excited for No Kings 3. I'm super excited for May Day. We are all in. And I think nobody on this call and nobody watching closely believes that one-day protests alone are enough. One-day protests, very important to recruit new people, to demonstrate our movement's strength. They are inspiring, they are powerful, and they are necessary, and also they are insufficient. We all know that. We all know that. We know what this regime is planning to do. They are planning to subvert the election. They're going to do everything they can to hold on to power, to undermine the democracy and do it. And if we're going to stop what the regime is doing, it's going to be important to have millions upon millions and millions of people involved. Don't get me wrong, but we're going to have to marry the breadth of No Kings and May Day and mass mobilization with the depth of organizing that we've been seeing in the Twin Cities. They are showing us the way. And I got to say, I was crazy inspired last week on Monday. This was weeks after Renee Good's murder. 82% of Americans saw that. Millions more than saw Alex Preddy's murder. And a couple of days after Alex Preddy's murder, you can imagine that the reaction of Americans who saw that would be to hide or to feel scared and not to reach out, not to say, what can I do? But 200,000 people joined the Eyes on Ice training last Monday after Alex Preddy's murder. 200,000 people, when they saw Alex Preddy murdered for observing ICE, for exercising his First Amendment rights, when they saw Renee Good murdered for exercising her First Amendment rights to support their neighbors, they said, I guess I've got to get trained to do that too, because it could be coming to my community too. We're at an inflection point for this organizing. Yes, we are going to build towards the largest protest in history, absolutely. But as we move forward, we're also developing the capability to do more than show up and protest in one day. We're seeing how this works in Twin Cities. We're going to have to see that all around the country. And between now and then, we're going to have to train ourselves up and our communities up. So I do hope people are hearing about a lot of trainings on here. Join the ones that make sense to you. You can find them at No Kings. You can find them in May Day. You can find them elsewhere. But get your community trained up because this day is coming. We know it's going to get worse before it gets better. But what we've seen over these past few weeks is Americans are hungry. They are ready to do the work to make it better. Our job is to welcome them in with open arms and build this movement. That's what we're going to do. So I'll see y'all out for No Kings, and I'll see y'all out for May Day.
Hey, y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you to our last several speakers. Thank you to Ezra. Thank you to Sarah. Thank you to Stacy. I can't tell if I'm spotlighted, y'all. I'm sorry, I had to switch devices. I'm a little confused. But I want to keep us moving. Our next speaker is Mark Meinster, who's joining us from UE. Please welcome Mark.
Thanks, Tamika. I'm with UE, one of the first unions that got involved with May Day Strong. But I think it's important to know that the idea of a general strike doesn't actually come out of the industrial traditional union movement. The first person to theorize the general strike was a Jamaican abolitionist and communist, Robert Wedderburn. He wrote something in 1817 to call on his fellow countrymen to overthrow slavery through the general strike. And he said, "Union among you will strike tremendous terror to the receivers of stolen persons." And that's the opportunity we have right now with a general strike, to strike tremendous terror in the hearts of the Trump administration, ICE, their corporate supporters. And that terror comes because large-scale economic non-cooperation, especially strikes, change the entire balance of power and remind not only the other side, but our side, of the importance of working people to the functioning of society. I can tell you, if you were on the streets of Chicago in March 10th, 2006, and I know Jorge is going to talk about this in detail next, but I'll just say, marching with close to 1 million people, I have never seen cops that scared before or since. Being in the streets with that many people and looking at these cops who knew there was nothing they could do to stop that many working people from doing anything, just underscores how strikes can change the environment, not only in a workplace or a community, but hopefully nationwide. But UE was one of the first unions to endorse that March 10th march in Chicago. And we had some concerns because we had no strike clauses and many of the legal impediments that Greg and Wolfson talked about. But our members led the way, just like members of the unions in Minneapolis led the way. And you could see the momentum rising, and more people started calling off sick. More and more people said they were participating. Employers started backing down. Momentum rose. A very similar dynamic to what we saw in Minnesota on the 23rd. And we can recreate that dynamic. The conditions are there for us to do this elsewhere and leading up to May 1st. So from a union perspective, what are the lessons we can draw from Minnesota going forward? And do what Stacy said is, put our boots on the ground and answer this call. One, we can't let the possibility of failure stop us. We've got to take the risk. Anytime we've had general strikes and strike waves, we've had defeats before we had victories, just like Sarah talked about. My union was built in the 1930s on the backs of those general strikes you heard about earlier. But those general strikes were the successes, but before that, they were defeats where unions and workers learned and then applied those, took the risks anyway, and eventually won. That's what we got to do now as unions. Two, we've got to help unions visualize how they can participate in something like this. Like we know, there's an element of risk with any strike, especially when we're talking about strikes like this, but we can maximize participation by showing them how they can mitigate that risk. That's what our comrades in Minnesota did so well. They showed unions how they could participate in this despite the legal impediments. And we're going to need to go to labor councils and local unions in our areas well before we want to strike so that we can lay that groundwork and build that capacity. Three, we've got to create more on-ramps and put more tools in the hands of more workers. Nady said at the beginning, 90% of the working class isn't even in a union. In Minneapolis, through our Emergency Workplace Organizing Committee, EWOC, we were able to provide some direct support and mass training to workers who are yet to be organized, who wanted to participate in the shutdown. What we found was that many, or probably most of the people who called us for help were already involved in neighborhood level ICE, constitutional monitoring, mutual aid networks, other connections to the larger resistance work already happening. That shows us that we have to connect the work of building the strike to the work on the ground to resist ICE in these cities and wherever ICE goes next. Four, we can build for May Day while we're preparing to respond to what we know are going to be future trigger moments that happen in the coming period. So May 1st, 2026 gives us a goal to take big, bold action together on a national level. But obviously, we're not just building for that one day. We're building long-term power. We're building those muscles to do massive strikes when the conditions call for them. And one of the things that we think could work really well is Fourth Amendment workplace campaigns. These are strategies that came out of the immigrant rights movement, especially through Charlotte and Chicago and LA. Campaigns to ice-proof our workplaces are ways for us to put workers who don't have a union into motion so they can talk with their coworkers, make demands on employers, and get prepared for a strike if that comes down the road. We're going to need to be prepared to wage successive strikes, to create successive crises for the ruling class here. Authoritarian regimes topple because of successive strikes. In South Africa, their first big strike wave happened in 1973, and apartheid didn't topple till 94. But anyone who's been through a strike knows there's something different about withdrawing our labor power as a group that changes the dynamic in that workplace and creates new possibilities. We do that on a large scale, especially when we're doing it in concert with other elements of non-cooperation, other social sectors. That's the key to fighting authoritarianism successfully. We right now, right here in this country, have the opportunity to take that bravery, that fighting spirit, that organizing wisdom that was developed in Minneapolis and apply that in our own communities. And hopefully on May 1st, apply that nationwide or before and strike terror in the hearts of our enemies on a national scale. I'll turn it back over to the MCs.
Thank you so much, Mark. Yes, we have so much to learn from our peers, and some of these things have happened before, and we just got to keep connecting the dots. We just really want to say thank you all. We're definitely way past our time. We have one more speaker and then a closing video, but we will be having more of these conversations and trainings. We've been working very hard and trying to do at least 30. Now we've given ourselves the goal of 100 solidarity, aka strike schools across the country. So please make sure that you text the word solidarity to 58910 so that we can plug you in and you can get connected about all those efforts. I'm gonna pass it over now to Jorge Mujica from Chicago, who is both Consejo and Arise Chicago, to talk about what happened in 2006.
Thank you very much. And yeah, let me talk about 2006. This is not the first time a general strike is called in the United States. We already did it. We did it in 2006, but it wasn't a general strike. It was a huelga general. And that's why maybe a lot of people have not heard about it, because it was mostly the Latino community, mostly the Mexican Latino community who came out in the streets. We had 16 million people marching on May Day 2006, the day without immigrants, el día sin inmigrantes, en la primavera del inmigrante, what is called the immigrant spring. So we have done it already, and we can do it again. We can do it again as long as we don't call for a strike only, but we call for a huelga, we call for a greve, we call for a scopato, we call for in as many languages for work stoppages, for no work, no buying anything, no consuming. That's what we have to do. Everybody's talking about immigration. Immigration has been the trigger for everybody. Donald started, attacking unions, attacking federal workers, but then when he attacked immigrants is when the rage came up, and we have to include immigrants. If we don't include immigrants, we are not going to be as effective as we want to be. To bring 1 million people to the streets, we need 3,000 or 4,000 organizers. It's not going to happen in TikTok, it's not going to happen in Facebook, it's not going to happen by email, and it's not going to happen in Zoom meetings. After this, Everybody's got to go out and get 300 people organized. And the way you can find, the place you can find 300 people more easily is in your workplace. So we have to go and organize in the workplaces. If we want to stop working, we have to start by the place where we are working. So everybody has to go and start organizing their own co-workers right now, right away. There's been many questions in the chat and question and answer here. But how do we do it? Texas is a problem. The right to work states, everybody, federally speaking, nationwide, everybody's got a right to strike. Everybody's got the right to withhold their work. Union or not union, as a matter of fact, it's a lot easier if you don't have a union than if you have a union. So forget about the unions. The unions will deal with this issue by themselves. Let's organize the non-union workers who do have the right to strike. But we have to train them. We have to teach them. We have barely 90 days, less than that, to go and train people. That's why we need to start putting out the posters. We need to start putting out the leaflets. We start to not only talk about it, but do about it, organize it. There's a lot of ideas, and we have to start doing them right now. We have to start meeting locally to organize how it's going to look like in our location, in our city, in our suburb, in our barrio, in our neighborhood, and in our workplace. We had a beautiful example on December 25th at a local Popeyes restaurant. The workers stopped. The workers said, we are not working on Christmas Day. And they did it. No union, no nothing, and only 3 days or 5 days preparing their own strike. They did it. Everybody can do it, but it has to be prepared. People have to learn about it. People have to know how to do it. That's our task as activists, as people who are in organizations that can call for the strike. That's our task. But the accomplishment is going to come from the people. We are not going to be enough, you know. Now, what are we doing on May Day? We have to march, but we have to shut it down. Shut it down means we have to march against Target. We have to march against Home Depot. We have to march against Walmart. Let's just not march to downtown. Let's march to shut down those corporations, to shut down the stores, to shut down the big warehouses. We have to do that. Maybe instead of going to an empty downtown, let's go to the neighborhoods. Let's go to where these stores are. Let's go to those places and shut them down, because marching is not enough for a strike. If we strike, everybody's got to shut down, voluntarily or not. In Minnesota, I understand 800 companies shut down. Well, we have to start calling on those companies and many other companies, 800 companies by location, by city, to shut it down alongside with us. And if they don't do it voluntarily, and we know the corporations are not going to do it voluntarily, make plans to shut them down. That's, I think, what we have to do. In 2006, we did it. It was effective. Employers were putting posters saying, in solidarity with the immigrant movement, we will shut down on May Day. We have to do that again. So start getting ready the posters, start getting ready the leaflets, start getting ready the messages. AI is not going to call for a general strike. We have to do it ourselves. And let's start doing it tomorrow. And then I'll leave you with a fantastic video. Thank you very much. Good night.
Labor is going to show the entire state and the entire nation how we move in Minnesota. We demand justice for Renee Good. Power concedes nothing without a demand. We ain't asking, we are demanding. They threw a flashbang into the car of one of my members. We ain't fighting to get back to 2025. These are our streets. We're taking them back one block at a time.
We're the same people that marched for Jamar Clark and Philando Castile and brown kids in cages. We're the center of the world's attention during George Floyd. What we said and say at George Floyd Square is playing out in real time. Every brutality that they visit upon Indigenous and Black people will eventually be felt by other people. I've owned my home for longer than ICE has been an actual institution. They've only been around for 23 years. The concept of abolishing a system isn't that far-fetched. I don't think it's going to be that hard to say that maybe it shouldn't exist either as it is or at all. Minneapolis Federation of Educators are joining in with other unionists, other labor organizations, and neighborhood organizations in demanding that ICE leave our public institutions. On January 23rd, there is going to be a huge day of action where the organizers have called for no school, no shopping, and no work. There will be a reckoning. Whatever you ran for, whatever office you hold, whatever way of doing business that was status quo for you, say goodbye to that. Because we didn't come this far to only get this far.
All right, good people, please, one more time in the chat with your reactions, please show love to all of the speakers tonight. And then show love to each other. The chat was popping, the Q&A was popping, the reactions were popping, y'all are popping, the streets is popping, it's just popping all around. So show love to all the speakers and thank you all for staying in. Nady, can you remind folks of the opt-in code?
Yes, please text the word solidarity to 5891 and 910, 58910. And also, can we just give it up to Tamika? Thank you, sister, for holding the space. And just really thank you all for joining. We know we're super late, but look, more than like 2/3 of you stuck by. So we know that this is important and we're gonna have more spaces like this one. Thank you.
Yes, please show love to Nady too. She didn't big herself up. Big up to Nady. and just so that if we can take anything away, it's now the time to organize. Organizing gets the goods. So that's what we're up to. If you did not, please sign up. If you need the video, Acre Campaigns, ACRE Campaigns on YouTube, text the number 58910. If you registered, you will also get the recording.
That's right. Because we didn't get this far to only get this far. I'm going to remember that. Thank you all. Have a good rest of your night.
Good night, y'all.
All right, we're out. You guys can hear me, I think. So okay. Well, for those who are new to Spy Stream, that was a really good first Spy Stream for you guys to go to. I'll tell you that. There was a lot of quiet parts said out loud in that Spy Stream. We are going to be making clips of it, so I do want people to know I will be making clips of that like literally tonight, right after this. And so I will be posting those clips on the YouTube channel and on Twitter. And if you guys could help me share those out, that would be great. But I just really want people to understand something here. Number one, there were a lot of new people watching Spy Stream today that have never seen something like that. I saw a bunch of people kind of like freaking out in the chat, like, holy shit, this is crazy, all this stuff. What I really want new people to understand is I've been infiltrating calls like that for about 5 years now. And I have literally watched hundreds, maybe even into the thousands, I don't know, of calls like this. I have minimally watched hundreds of calls like this. What we just watched tonight was pretty tame, if I'm being honest about it. So, and I really want you to understand that. Like, from my perspective, I'm like, okay, that flight attendant bitch was crazy. That flight attendant bitch is a communist, for sure. But, like, was there a ton of new information other than that? No, not really, to be honest with you. Like, it was all stuff we already knew. It was all stuff I recorded a million times before. I don't say this to make anyone feel bad. I say this so that people understand how much information exists in the public sphere that you are not being shown. Every time I used to do one of these, I would try to reach out to conservative influencers and journalists and media outlets to try to get them to cover stuff like this. I have sent all of your favorite conservative influencers and media outlets way crazier shit than we saw on tonight's call. I promise you that. And they refuse to cover it. So the reason that so many of you think that this is so insane, whereas people in my community, we're kind of like, yeah, this is like pretty much par for the course so far as the left goes. The reason that you think it's insane, I really want you to reflect on this. You are consuming media that is lying to you. You are consuming media that are not telling you the truth about who the left is and what they're doing. They do all this stuff in public. This wasn't even a hard, this is a major organizing call. This is extremely public. This isn't even something I had to finagle my way in with a number of secret identities. This is par for the course leftist activism in the United States. They have been saying this shit for years. No one listens except the people in this community. And I just really want you guys to understand this, because this is a problem. These people are a problem. They're gaining more momentum. They're more energized than I've ever seen them in the years that I've been watching these people. And no one seems to take this seriously. And I also did see a lot of people in the chat today saying, they're stupid, they're dumb, they're paid protesters, all the usual conservative bullshit. And by the way, guys, if you're new to my channel, you might not know the difference between conservative bullshit and reality, but we need to break you of your conservative bullshit habits, because it is the conservative bullshit and the conservative narrative and the approved talking points. They're all paid protesters who are mentally ill and they don't have jobs. Do you know what the most detrimental thing that conservatives tell their audience is? They're all mentally ill and don't have jobs, and they're all paid protesters, because they're not paid protesters at all. No, none of them. No, not part of them and not some of them. No, none of them are paid protesters. You maybe 1%. 1 fucking percent. We learned tonight on this call there are over 80,000 people in those signal groups in Minneapolis. I thought it was I had been giving a conservative estimate of at least 20,000. I thought maybe it was double that. I thought maybe it was 40 or 50,000. I had no fucking idea they had gotten to 80,000 people in those signal groups. That is absurd, okay? That is not stupid. That is not paid organizing. If you think there are 80,000 paid protesters in Minneapolis, you are far too retarded to be on my channel. That is retarded. That is like next level retardation to think that there are 80,000 paid protesters in Minneapolis. And let's look at the flip side of that. Let's just say they are all paid. Let's just say that every single one of those 80,000 people are paid. Then the left is winning, guys. Then the left won, you lost. If the left really has the fucking money to pay 80,000 paid protesters in a single fucking city, they won, you lost, just fucking accept it. It's over. There is nothing that you can do about it. So either you lost so badly that they are literally paying 80,000 fucking people in one city, or they were never paid protesters to begin with, and this is part of their ideology, and this is part of their identity, and this is part of how they see the world. Do you understand how bad this problem is? Another lie that conservatives like to tell their audience all the time is they don't have jobs. They control the fucking unions. That was union head after union head after union head after union head after union head. Every single person speaking on that call tonight was associated with the unions. I'm sorry, you just got permanently banned from my channel. You want to come in with 800 people is still a lot of paid protesters. Permanent ban from my channel for being far too stupid to be here. Do you guys think I'm fucking around? You like to try to push the bound. What conservative retard shit can we get away with saying in your chat? None. If you bring conservative retardation into my chat when I am working desperately to get as many people as possible hinged into reality so that people actually take this problem seriously, you will be immediately deported from my channel and sent back to Fox fucking News. Anyway, I got to acknowledge some super chats and some stuff. Let's see. We got a lot of super chats before. I think I acknowledged many of these. Thank you, Wolf, for those 5 gifted channel memberships. I really did appreciate that. You say far left groups like, no. That's not what I said. Go to decodetheleft.com/map and find out what I mean by that. You say the far left are in groups like Antifa. No. Antifa is one small part of the far left. Those are two different things. And the goal these groups share is overthrowing the government. Well, it's abolishing capitalism. They believe the government is built on capitalism. My question is, are there far left groups? No. All the far left groups are communists or socialists. We use the words communist and socialist interchangeably. What you need to do, bro, what I need you to do, listen. If you are new to my work and you have questions like this, what I need you to do is go over to my Substack. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Go over to my Substack. That is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. I need you to click on this link right here, new to my work, and I need you to watch the 90-minute re-education masterclass. That will answer your questions. And the reason I'm hurrying is because we have movie night tonight in the supporter Discord, so I can't give you an in-depth explanation on something that I've already explained in 912 times. So find the videos of me explaining that. Go watch this video. It will explain it. I do appreciate the super chat though, but I've explained all that a million times. James, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for another great spy stream. Thank you so much for taking the time each spy stream to explain to new people. Thank you for opening my eyes to the lies by conservative media. I really do appreciate that. Thanks so much for that. All right, guys, I would like to stay around and chat, but we do have a movie night starting in my supporter Discord. If you are a YouTube channel member, you can find the Discord link under the post tab. If you are a Substack supporter, you can find the link in the chat. If you are already a Discord member, head over to the supporter Discord. We are watching City of Angels tonight. And so if you're a supporter on another platform, either DM me on Twitter or DM me on Substack, and I will get you the link for that. I just want to make sure I've actually verified everyone who has chatted in so far. Yes, everyone who is asked to be verified in the supporter Discord for movie night, you all have been verified. If you haven't made it yet, join the supporter Discord. We do movie nights on Sunday nights and Monday nights. Take advantage of the channel memberships that have been given out. I would appreciate it. And I really do appreciate everyone who made a super chat, everyone who donated channel memberships. You guys rock. I'm going to go make some clips of this. I will be sharing them out on my Twitter. I will also be posting them probably to the Decode the Left YouTube channel, so you can find them there. I will be posting them to the Substack when they're done as well. So please share these clips out. Always make sure to sound people to my content when you do, so they can see what's really going on. And now let's go watch a movie. Everyone ready to go watch a movie? Let's go watch a movie. All right, guys, that's it. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you soon.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here? 3 months, May 17th. And what brought you? That's difficult to answer. eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.